wonder shall never end. These days, these senators have been passing or proposing bills. Devilish bills they be uh, sponsoring and passing the bills. This one is really ridiculous. A bill proposing a 5-year jail term for unlawful protesters in the country has scaled through the first reading at the House of Representatives. The bill entitled an act to amend the Criminal Code Act Cap 38, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004 to further preserve the sanctity of human life and property and to provide specifically for mob action, prescribe punishments and other matters, is sponsored by Rep. Emeka Chinedu Martins, PDP, Imo. The bill, which was presented before the House on Thursday, has been approved by the House for a second reading. The provisions of the proposed act are as follows. 1. The provision of the Criminal Code Act in this bill referred to as the Principal Act is amended to set out in the bills. Okay, to substitute for Section 69 of the Principal Act a new Section 69. Definitions: unlawful assembly, riot, mob action, when 3 or more persons with intent to carry out some common purpose assemble in such a manner or being assembled conduct themselves in such a manner as to cause persons in the neighborhood to fear or reasonable grounds that the persons so assembled will tumultuously disturb the peace or will by such assembly needlessly and without any reasonable occasion provoke other persons tumultuously to disturb the peace. They are an unlawful assembly. It is immaterial that the original assembly was lawful if being assembled they conduct themselves which a common purpose in such a manner as aforesaid. It also states that an assembly of 3 or more persons who assemble for the purpose of protecting any house against persons threatening to break and enter the house in order to commit a felony or misdemeanor therein is not an unlawful assembly. When an unlawful assembly has begun to act in so much tumultuously a manner as to disturb the peace, the assembly is called a riot, and the persons assembled are said to be riotously assembled. When an unlawful assembly becomes violence as to commit unlawful acts against any person or property, the assembly is called a mob and their violent acts is referred to as mob action. It adds that any person who takes part in a riot is guilty of a felony and is liable to imprisonment for 3 years. Any person who takes part in mob action is guilty of a felony and is liable to imprisonment for 5 years. Substitute for Section 76 of the Principal Act in new Section 76 is Section 76 mob action against any person or property. Any person who assembled together as a mob to commit violence against any person or property are guilty of a felony and each of them is liable to imprisonment for life. You hear that? These people never pass or propose any bill for the welfare of the people. It is always how they are going to be punished, how the people are going to be punished. But invariably in all of this proposed bill or whatever they are doing, it's just to see gag people from protesting. That is just their aim. That is just their aim. They have not come out to tell us the bill that prohibits a public officer from stealing, doing a shabby work. We just experienced one of the lawmakers that did rubbish work after giving them huge amounts of money to do a job for the community. This shabby job, if not for social media that has exposed them. Now, the government of the state now begin to run scatter to go and check what happened in Edo State. So what is going to be the punishment for the person who was supposed to do the right job? They can act with impunity. It does not matter. They don't propose any bill for themselves. The bills they always propose. I think they are even proposing bills that will even favor the masses, their welfare, their fundamental human rights. No, they won't do that. It's all about, oh, you don't have to speak. You don't have to. It is what the masses are doing wrong. Those are the things that they are always pinpointing. But the reason why people are acting in such a manner, which they caused in the first place, they wouldn't want to talk about it, and they expect the country to move forward. And the worst part of it is that they don't even care. They do not care at all. Whether you are hungry, whether you are suffering, they care not. All they want is just to be proposing be wicked acts. Wicked acts. Those are the things that they are known for. The bill explains that it seeks to amend the Criminal Code Act Cap 38 laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004 to further preserve the sanctity of human life and property, and to provide specifically for the crime of mob action, prescribe punishments, and other matters connected therewith. The sponsor of the peace legislation against unlawful protesters in his lead debate said, Mr. Speaker, my highly respected colleagues, permit me to lead the debates on this very important bill titled the Criminal Code Act Amendment Bill. These are the bills that will gladden Buhari. The bill was read for the first time in this hallowed chamber. Mr. Speaker, my honorable colleague, this bill seeks to amend the Criminal Code Act Cap 38 Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004 to provide specifically for the crime of mob action, prescribe punishments, and for other related matters. Mr. Speaker, every now and then we hear and read in the news of mobs moving against people and properties. The word mob connotes a disorderly crowd of people intent on causing trouble or violence. It is usually triggered spontaneously by accusations of a bystander, then joined by another and then another till it turns into a crowd of vengeful people causing carnage and destruction on its path. The danger with mob action is that participants typically believe they are punishing an accused for violation of the law, when in fact they are delivering jungle justice as an accused to an accused who may be totally innocent and not being given an opportunity to be fairly heard. They serve as accusers, judges, and executors. Most participants in mob actions are usually not informed firsthand about the situation before joining the destructive crowd in blind rage to carry out their orgy of violence. There have been records of crowds inflicting fatal injuries on their targets and destroying and looting properties based on unfounded accusations of theft of an item, allegations of missing genitals, witchcraft, and blasphemy. Do you people believe in that? Does the government believe in that? So that is what we are hearing from these lawmakers. It is very ridiculous. It shows that the country has been hijacked by the Association of Intellectual Imbeciles. Our fundamental human rights is now being infringed. Of course, the other one they are talking about a jungle justice, which is not even the case in the recent. If you are not allowed to protest, that is just their main aim, because nobody encourages jungle justice. But this idea of people coming out every now and then because it exposes them, they have dealt with a what is it called, with this social media wahala. They don't even know where they are now. But every avenue that the people will want to express themselves, they want to block it. I ask, what about the beef for the welfare of the people? What do you do about them? Nothing.